हे एवरीवन, वेलकम बैक टू बायोवेंचर। आज से हम स्टार्ट करने वाले हैं चैप्टर 8 ऑफ 11th नीट बायोलॉजी। सो द चैप्टर 8 इज द सेल, द यूनिट ऑफ लाइफ, a very basic and very interesting topic of 11th class. So in this chapter we are going to discuss what is a cell, then different types of cell theory. After that we are going to discuss the overview of a cell, then the prokaryotic cells and the eukaryotic cells. So let's start. When you look around, you see both living and non-living things. So we are going to discuss the unit according to the NCERT. We are going to read all lines one by one so that you don't need to read NCERT again and again. And one more important thing, keep your NCERT for reading after the completion of this topic. So I will cover this topic here, then at home in the evening you have to come again reread the NCERT and highlight the important points based on the previous year questions. So let's see. So here when you look around, you see both living and non-living things, right? Yes. So you must have wondered and asked yourself, what is that makes an organism living, or what is it that an inanimate thing does not have which a living thing has? So the meaning of inanimate thing is the same. The inanimate things means the non-living one. The non-living things. So the question is, what is it that makes an organism living, or what is it that an non-living things does not have which a living thing has? So the answer is the presence of the basic unit of a life. So what is the basic unit of a life? That is the cell. So firstly, the basic sentence that you are going to see everywhere is, let's highlight this. What is the basic unit of a life? The basic unit of a life is the cell. So this cell you can see present in all living organisms, and you are not going to see the cell in the non-living organism. So this is the distinguishing characters of the living things, that they show presence of a cell. Then all living organisms are composed of cells, and some are composed of a single cell and are called as unicellular organism. So जिन organisms में सिंगल सेल प्रेजेंट होती है उनको हम कहते हैं the unicellular organisms, while others like us. So what we are the multicellular organism, because we have presence of many cells. So what we are multicellular organisms. So we can also say the on the basis of cell, organism are divided into two types. On the basis of what? Number of cells. unicellular and multicellular. Then what is a cell? So now we are going to see what is the meaning of a cell. So unicellular organisms are capable of independent existence. Let's zoom it out. So now you can see clearly. Unicellular organisms are capable of independent existence and performing the essential functions of life. Anything less than a complete structure of a cell does not ensure independent living. And hence, the cell is the fundamental structural and functional unit of all living organisms. I hope you have understood this sentence. Let's see what it says. So, unicellular organisms are capable of what? The independent existence, and they perform the essential functions of life independently. So, that means that cell ensures that organism to live independently. Hence, we call the cell as the fundamental structural and functional unit of all living organisms. So, the first person to describe and saw a living cell is the Anton von Leeuwenhoek. So he was the first person who saw and described a living cell. And Robert Brown later discovered the nucleus. So firstly, this cell was described, and later the nucleus was reported by the Robert Brown. So these are the two important scientists for the discovery of a cell. So Robert Brown discovered what? The nucleus, and Anton von Leeuwenhoek saw the cell under the microscope first time. The invention of the microscope and its improvement leading to the electron microscope revealed all the structural details of the cell. So nowadays different types of microscopes are present, like dissecting microscope, then compound microscope, electron microscope, etc. But in the earlier period, when the microscopes was not discovered, at that time very basic structure of a cell was known. And after the discovery of different types of microscopes, like the electron microscope revealed all the structural details of the cell. Now let's move to the cell theory. So in 1838, Matthias Schilden, who was a German botanist, examined a large number of plants and observed that all plants are composed of a different kinds of cell, which form the tissues of plants. Okay, and at about the same time, Theodore Schwann, who was a British zoologist, studied different types of animal cells and reported that these cells had a thin outer layer, which today is known as the plasma membrane. So, the Matthias Schilden, I think this color is not visible to you all. Let's change the highlighter color. So, let's take the eraser. So the Matthias Schilden and Theodor Schwann studied different types of animals. So he studied different types of animal cells. Who? The Theodor Schwann and the Matthias Schulden, who was a German botanist. He examined a large number of plants and observed that all plants are composed of different kinds of cells or which forms tissues in the plant. Then he named the thin outer layer of a cell as the plasma membrane. He also concluded, based on his studies on the plant tissues, that the presence of a cell is a unique character of the plant cells. Okay, and on the basis of this, Schwann proposed the hypothesis that the bodies of animals and plants are composed of cells and the products of cells. So, what was the hypothesis? That the presence of a cell wall is the unique. The hypothesis was that the bodies of animals and plants are composed of cells and the products of cells. So, this hypothesis was proposed by the Schwann. Then, the Schleiden and Schwann together formulated the cell theory. And this theory, however, did not explain as to how new cells were formed. So इन्होंने हाइपोथेसिस तो दे दिया, लेकिन इन्होंने ये एक्सप्लेन नहीं किया कि हाउ न्यू सेल्स वेर फॉर्म. Then another scientist came, who was the Rudolf Virchow. In 1855, he first explained that the cells divided and new cells are formed from the pre-existing cells, and he termed this as omnicellula ecellula. Okay, so he modified the hypothesis of Schleiden and Schwann to give this cell theory a final shape. So, by the contribution of the Rudolf Virchow, a new cell theory came into existence and modified as all living organisms are composed of cells and the products of cell. Okay, so this is the new theory given by the contribution of the Rudolf Virchow, that all living organisms are composed of cells and the products of cells, and all cells arise from the pre-existing cells. So he added this sentence into the hypothesis given by the Schleiden and Schwann, and completed this cell theory that that today is known by all. Now let's see the overview of a cell. So in you have earlier observed cells in the onion peel or a human cheek cells under the microscope. So now let us recollect their structure. The onion cell, which is a typical plant cell, has a distinct cell wall as its outer boundary, and just within it is the cell membrane. So the outer boundary is known as this is the outer boundary, which is known as cell wall. A structure present internal. Let's take a different color pen. So This structure present internally to the cell wall is known as the plasma membrane. Now let's see what our paragraph says of the NCERT. So it has a distinct cell wall as its outer boundary, and just within it there is a cell membrane. The cells of a human chick have an outer membrane as delimiting structure of the cell. Inside each cell is a dense membrane bound structure called as nucleus is present. So in this, as we are going to discuss, we are discussing about the eukaryote, then in eukaryote there is a nucleus in the center which has a definite boundary, not like the prokaryotes. So this is a nucleus which is a membrane bound structure. So this is a nucleus, and this nucleus contains the chromosome, which in turn contain the genetic material like a DNA. And cell that have membrane bound nuclei are called eukaryotic, whereas cell that lack membrane bound structure nucleus are prokaryotic, as we have seen. In both prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, a semi-fluid matrix called the cytoplasm occupies the volume of the cell. Okay, so cells that have membrane, so in both prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells there is a semi-fluid matrix called as cytoplasm occupies the volume of the cell. So this is the cytoplasm, which is a semi-fluid matrix. Let's name it. So this is what? This is a cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is the main arena of a cellular activities in both plants and animal cells. Various chemical reactions occur in it to keep the cell in the living state. Beside the nucleus, the eukaryotic cells have other membrane-bound distinct structures called as organelles, like the ER, which is the endoplasmic reticulum. Let's highlight Golgi complex, lysosomes, mitochondria, microbodies and vacuoles. And the prokaryotic cells lack such membrane-bound organelles. Ribosomes are non-membrane bound organelles found in the all cells, both eukaryotic as well as the prokaryotic. Within the cell, ribosomes are found not only in the cytoplasm but also within the two organelles, chloroplast, which is present in the plants, and mitochondria, and on the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So ribosomes are found not only in the cytoplasm. Remember this sentence, that the ribosomes are found not only in the cytoplasm but also within the two organelles. Which are them? They are chloroplast and the mitochondria. Then animal cells contain another non-membranous bound organelle called as centrosome, which helps in the cell division. So what is the role of the centrosome? That it helps in the cell division. It's its detailed structure and role we will discuss in the upcoming classes, that what is the actual role of the centrosome at the time of cell cycle and division. Then cell differ greatly in size, shape and activities. For example, the mycoplasmas, which is the smallest cell. So the diameter or length of this bacteria is 0.3 micrometer, while bacteria could be 3 to 5 micrometer. So mycoplasma has which is the smallest cell. So this question can be asked in your NEET examination. So this is very important question from the paper point of view, and this should also be noted. This can be asked for the match the following questions. Then the largest isolated single cell is the egg of an ostrich. So the ostrich egg is the single cell which is the largest isolated single cell. Among multicellular organisms, human RBC are about 7 micrometer in the diameter. Nerve cells are some of the longest cells, and cell also vary greatly in their shape. They may be this is the another sentence, that cell also vary greatly in their shape. They may be disc-like, polygonal, columnar, cuboid, thread-like or even irregular too. The shape of the cell may vary in the function they perform. So cells differ in what? The size, shape and activities. So let's see here. This is the RBC having the round and biconcave structure. So the size of the RBC is 7 micrometer in the diameter. So 7 micrometer. Then this is the WBC, which is amoeboid in structure. Then this is the columnar epithelial cell having long and narrow cells. This is the nerve cell, which is a branch and long cell. And this is a trochid found in the plant, which is a elongated. And this is the mesophyll cells. These are the mesophyll cells having the round and oval structure. So what we have seen, that cell differ greatly in size, shape and activities. So up to now we have discussed the basic idea of a cell, overview of a cell, and in another lecture we are going to differentiate between the eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells. So this was all about the basic idea of a cell. Let's meet in the another lecture with the same topic, the cell biology. Thank you.